Hello everybody, I am Rachel and I am here with Rebekah Kaufman. She is Steiff gal on Ruby Lane and we have done so many videos with her and we are so excited because today is World Doll Day. We're talking about all kinds of dolls today, but for today we're going to talk about something extra special that a lot of you may not have heard about, and it is the dolls that Steiff has produced and maybe continually is producing. So we're going to learn about some of the very early ones, and I'm sitting here with Bobo and she's going to learn right along with us. So we're going to get behind the camera so that we can get up close and personal with Rebekah. Thank you for being here with us on World Doll Day today.
Well, I can't imagine a place I'd rather be, so thank you so much. What I'd love to do is to share with you a very unusual and niche type of doll that Steiff produced. Conceptually from the 1920s onward, but practically from the 1930s onward. And they're a great doll. So I have a bunch of these in my collection, but I've pulled a few to share with you, to talk with you about what makes them so special. So many of you know that Steiff produced dolls with very prominent either these vertical or the horizontal seams. But starting in the 1920s with pressures from companies like Lenzi, who are producing beautiful dolls without facial seams, or Chad Valley, also the dolls without the facial seams, Steiff started to think, well, we've got to get rid of these facial seams and create a product that's a little bit more contemporary, a little bit more competitive, and a little bit more what people are looking for. So from the 1920s onward, Steiff experimented with a number of different types of dolls without facial seams. And in the early 1920s produced a celluloid version without a facial seam. These were called Schlappness dolls, and they're wonderful dolls but extraordinarily rare, and that is because the heads themselves were made by Schildkreuth, and when they were dropped, unfortunately broke. So there are very few, if any, of these non-felt center seam dolls available from the 1920s. From the 1930s onward, Steiff continued to experiment with felt in order to produce dolls that did not have seams either this way or this way on the face. And after much trial and error, discovered a way to create felt face dolls that would keep the integrity of the shape of the face by placing a plastic mask behind the felt. So that was their way of doing this. And then they would either cut out the eyes and paint the eyes, and cut out the eyes and put either glass pupil eyes behind them or paint the eyes. So this happened about from the 1930s onward. The very first type of these dolls appeared commercially in 1936. Now, very interestingly, one of the very first dolls that Steiff produced with this type of face was a clown doll.
Look at that.
Okay, this is the puppet version. This item was produced as a puppet, as a roly-poly, meaning it was on a round body that rolled around, or this puppet on this wonderful fabric here. And this is all original, you see, with the ruffle here. What you have to know about this pressed felt face doll is, notice it has no seam on it. But because it's very early and still in sort of Steiff's making the product better and better over time, this has a couple of features that you can show that it's extremely early. The first is that the eyes are actually on the face as opposed to in the face. They're regular pupil eyes, but notice they're placed on the face. The other thing that's very interesting is that the ears are actually sewn onto the face and they're loose. And the examples that I'm going to show you that were produced just maybe even a half a year later are on the face or in the face.
So interesting.
So if you see something with the eyes on the face and loose ears, you know this was very early. But this is an example of the pressed felt face. You see the face is rather hard. You can feel the plastic in the back, the Steiff button here. And so this would be a clown version. This is started from about 1936. Okay.
Wonderful.
Now, after that, just a couple of, Steiff worked very quickly with product design and development, and they came up with a number of these wonderful dolls that you're going to see from about 1936 through about the early 1940s. Production stopped, and then they were produced for a couple of years post-war through the very, very early 1950s. And they are quite lovely. They've got jointed legs and arms that are not jointed and jointed heads. These are sort of an idealized toddler with the eyes that are cut out and beautiful glass pupil. The faces beautifully made up with Steiff artisans, and all of the clothes are fully removable. So they all have these beautiful felt shoes, socks, and not meaning to be rude, and she understands this is for academic purposes, but we're going to lift her skirts to show you the wonderful layers of clothing that were made to be top-notch and very high-end. So she's 3-ways jointed, made out of felt. Like most high-end Steiff girl dolls, you're going to see shoes and hats. And the IDs that these all would have would be a bracelet. This one doesn't have her tag on it. I'll give you another example. But you'll see a rubber bracelet with a yellow tag and a button, and a name tag with the early watermelon-shaped bare-faced tag with the name in red.
Wonderful.
Okay? She's just absolutely beautiful. And Steiff made a number of these, both boys and girls. Here's another one. Her name is Sigrid. And her hat is not original to her, but you can see how beautifully it matches. And she also has the shoes and a number of layers. Her onesie, beautifully made, soft arms, and her hair. These were made either with the short hair like this or very long hair in braids. So very beautiful children.
They're just wonderful. A couple of them, especially that one and then the boy, are reminiscent of the Katie Cruz or Kathy Cruz, however you like to pronounce it.
Oops.
Was Steiff trying to capitalize on the popularity of those
that's
dolls of the time?
That's an outstanding point. And actually, the face of this doll is based on the same sculpture from, I think it was the 16 or 1700s, a sculpture from Europe whose name was, I forgot his name, but he created an idealized child sculpture that Katie Cruz used to form the face, and then Steiff saw that and said, that is a beautiful, beautiful face, and we will create the same face out of this. The sculpture that was used for this idealized Flemish child was also the same statue produced by someone in the family who created the mannequin piss statue in Belgium, which is the peeing statue of the little boy. But that whole family was a Flemish family famous for this wonderful idealized children. And that is exactly right. You'll see that
Wow,
look.
what a wonderful explanation. I'm so glad I asked. That is so interesting. We are learning so much, and on World Doll Day, it is so wonderful to see these dolls because they came out of Germany, and we are exploring dolls from all around the world.
Yes, his name was Francois de Quesnoy. How's that for?
Love it.
My senior moment has disappeared. I hope that happens to the viewers often as well, because sometimes you just can't remember stuff, and I'm sure you can relate to that. But this statue of the idealized child, and you see all the children's faces basically have the same look and feel with a little bit of different makeup and such. But the little boys were less common than the little girls, but still elegantly dressed. This is Seppel, who was dressed in a very authentic German costume. These are actually German socks. We think of socks going all the way to the feet, but this is actually how the oftentimes traditional German socks you'll see with lederhosen and traditional outfits. He has his wonderful felt jacket and his little hat.
So great.
Pouty face.
So fantastic.
So they are just wonderful. This is a wonderful, let me close with this one. This is a wonderful doll that when I found her online, do you know the feeling when you see something and you've wanted it for a really long time and then it appears and you're like, I have to have it.
You can't even believe it's happening sometimes.
So I wrote to the woman, this was listed on German eBay, and I do not speak any German, so of course I went to Bing Translator, and I wrote her a letter in English, which I had Bing Translator translating to German, and I hope it said what I wanted it to say. But I basically said, I love these dolls, I collect them, I consider them part of my family. I know it says you don't sell to the U.S., but please, 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 would you sell this doll to me in the U.S. because I want her to complete my family. And hopefully, I guess Bing Translator translated it enough that it made sense in German. And she said, well, I guess we can figure out how to make it work. And she did end up selling this to me. And this is a wonderful doll. Her name is Lena. And Lena was purchased by a family in 1938 for their daughter for Christmas. And the little girl, once she got Lena, decided she did not like her. She thought she was ugly and her clothes were hard to remove. So she never really played with Lena, which is bad for her and great for me. I love this little doll, and this doll is dressed in a traditional outfit from a region in Germany. And all of her accessories, her black hat, her blue skirt, the very fancy design here, all of her underclothes, again, it's okay for scientific purposes, all align to what the traditional outfit was that she was designed after. Very unusual for Steiff to do this at this point in time. This is the late 30s, 1940s, but she is absolutely one of the crown jewels in my Steiff collection.
And another one of the crown jewels, just to say that because we saw earlier you got off of Ruby Lane, one of the dolls that you have in your collection is, he is just so wonderful. You have so many to share, and I hope that we can, in the future, look at some more of your wonderful Steiff dolls. This is just such a treat to behold, especially on World Doll Day, to see things that we're just not used to seeing.
Well, these dolls, you know, not many were made. It was not a very good time in Germany. People were not spending money on things like this at the time, and some of the qualities about them are quite ephemeral. But to me, they are incredibly precious. They are a key part of my Steiff collection. I love telling their stories, and I feel like I'm keeping them for the future. I know I'm not going to be the final owner of them, and I will just keep them to the next person who will love them as I do.
Wow, wonderful. And we love them too. So thank you, Rebekah, so much. And happy World Doll Day. Thank you for sharing your dolls with us.
It's my pleasure. There's no place I'd rather be than Ruby Lane on World Doll Day.
Love it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.